Work hard as hell or stay unlucky. Listen closely. The world is divided into two groups, those who wait for stars to align, and those who tear the stars from the sky and rearrange them. You've been told that working smart is a substitute for working hard. That is a lie sold to you by people who want your spot. To command the forces of wealth, you must first command the forces of your own resistance. Today, we stop flirting with your dreams and start a marriage with your discipline. Are you ready to earn your luck? Chapter 1. The Anatomy of the Unlucky. The only thing that overcomes hard luck is hard work. Harry Golden. Listen to the sound of your own breath for a moment. That rhythmic rise and fall is the only thing you truly own until you decide to own your destiny. We begin here in the cold, hard light of the truth, because you cannot heal a wound you refuse to acknowledge. For decades, I have sat across from individuals, some broke, some wealthy but miserable, some talented but stagnant, and they all shared a common poisonous ghost, the belief in bad luck. They speak of it as if it were a weather pattern, a storm that specifically follows their coordinates while the sun shines on everyone else. They point to the lucky ones with a mixture of envy and resignation, convinced that the universe has a favorites list and their name was left off the registry. But I am here to tell you, with the calm precision of a surgeon in the fire of a man who has seen the dead rise, that luck, as you define it, is a myth. What you call bad luck is actually a biological and psychological architecture. It is a structure you have built, brick by brick, with every avoided conversation, every hit of the snooze button, and every moment you chose the comfort of a lie over the friction of the truth. To move forward, we must first perform an autopsy on the unlucky soul. The anatomy of the unlucky begins in the brain, specifically within the neural pathways that crave the path of least resistance. You were born with a survival mechanism designed to keep you safe, but in the modern world, that mechanism has become a prison. When you face a daunting task, starting that business, making those sales calls, or finally mastering your finances, your brain senses friction. To your ancient amygdala, friction feels like a predator. So, it triggers a release of chemicals that whisper a seductive lie. Not today. Tomorrow is safer. Tomorrow you will have more energy. This is the birth of the procrastination loop. It isn't a character flaw. It is a neurological default setting that you have allowed to run unmonitored. Every time you give in to that whisper, you strengthen the unlucky circuit. You are literally training your gray matter to associate withdrawal with safety. You think you are just taking a break, but you are actually reinforcing a destiny of stagnation. The unlucky person isn't cursed by the stars. They are paralyzed by a brain that has learned to fear the very heat required to forge gold. Consider the lottery mindset, the most dangerous component of the unlucky anatomy. This is a belief that success is something that happens to you, rather than something that is extracted by you. Imagine a man standing in a dark room, waiting for a candle to light itself. He waits for years, cursing the darkness, blaming the candle, and resenting the people in the next room who have light. He is waiting for a break. He is waiting for a person, a windfall, or a miracle to rescue him from his own inaction. This is a hallmark of the unlucky. They are spectators in their own lives. They view wealth and impact as a game of chance. Neurologically, this keeps them in a state of passive hope, which is the most addictive and destructive drug on the planet. Passive hope feels like optimism, but has no teeth. It has no hands. It allows you to feel good about a future you aren't actually building. While the lucky are out in the field, sweating under the sun and planting seeds in the dirt, the unlucky are still at the window, checking the horizon for a ship they never actually sent out to sea. Mr. Elias is brilliant. He has ideas that could disrupt industries. But Elias believes he is unlucky. He says the market wasn't ready, or his boss didn't like his vibe, or he just didn't have the connections that others had. If you look closer at Elias's day, you see the anatomy of his misfortune. He wakes up and immediately surrenders his focus to his phone, letting the digital noise of other people's lives drown out his own vision. He works, but only enough to not get fired. When he feels the itch of a big idea, he talks about it at a bar instead of sitting in the silence of his office to execute it. He avoids the friction of possible failure, so he never experiences a friction of certain growth. He is a seed that refuses to crack its shell because the dirt feels too heavy. He calls the resulting darkness bad luck, but we know better. We know it is a choice to remain encased in the familiar. Giants, the ones we label as lucky, often have backstories that look like a series of disasters. Think of those who lost everything: homes, reputations, health, only to rise and dominate. Were they lucky? No. They simply understood the law of the forge. A sword is not made by wishing it into existence. It is made by heating steel until it glows white, and then striking it with a hammer until it takes a new shape. The lucky are those who have developed a high tolerance for the heat. They don't see a bad break as a sign to stop. They see it as a data point. They understand that the universe is not punishing them. It is simply testing the structural integrity of their ambition. They have replaced the lottery mindset with the architect mindset. They know that if they lay enough bricks with enough precision, the house is an inevitability, not a gamble. To break the anatomy of the unlucky, you must first develop an obsession with friction. Friction is where the light comes from. Think of a match. It is useless until it's struck against a rough surface. Your potential is that match. Your comfort zone is the smooth surface that keeps you dark. The unlucky spend their lives looking for smooth surfaces, wondering why they never catch fire. They want the wealth without the risk, the health without the sweat, and the wisdom without the pain. But growth is a violent process. A seed must literally be destroyed for a tree to be born. You must be willing to let your old, unlucky self die, so that the version of you capable of holding great wealth can emerge. This requires you to stop viewing your life through the lens of what is happening to me, and start seeing it through what am I making happen. The unlucky anatomy is also characterized by a lack of emotional intelligence. When a stroke of bad luck hits, a car breakdown, a lost client, a rejected proposal, the unlucky person collapses emotionally. They take it personally. They enter a state of why me, which shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for problem solving and vision. They become cognitively blind to the opportunities hidden in the chaos. The wealth mender knows that every misfortune is actually a hidden door, but you can only see the handle if you remain calm. You must master your internal weather so that the external storms cannot dictate your direction. Luck is simply what happens when your preparation meets a moment of chaos, and you are the only one calm enough to lead. Now look at your own life. Where have you been nursing the wound of bad luck? Where have you used your circumstances as a shield against your potential? This is the moment of rebirth. You are not a victim of the stars or the economy or your past. You are the architect of your frequency. If you want to change your luck, you must change your output. You must work with such terrifying intensity and such focused clarity that the universe has no choice but to yield to you. The lottery is over. The waiting is done. You are no longer looking for a break. You are the one who breaks the resistance of the world. Stop waiting for the wind to change. Grab the oars and row until your hands bleed, for it is in that effort that the wind finally catches your sails. The anatomy of the unlucky is a shell you are now outgrowing. Shed it. Leave it on the floor of the past. From this breath forward, you are the cause, and the world is the effect. Rise up and reclaim the power that was never actually taken from you. Choose the fire of the forge over the cold of the cave. Your luck is waiting for you to earn it. Chapter 2. The Altar of Output. The secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Socrates. Take a seat at the edge of your own existence. We are no longer talking about trying. We are no longer discussing hoping. We have moved past the autopsy of the unlucky, and now we stand before the most sacred space in the life of a creator, the altar of output. You've been told that working hard is a grind, a soul-crushing weight that breaks your back. I am here to tell you that working like hell is actually a form of worship. It is the moment where your invisible potential meets the physical world and manifests into reality. But there is a secret, a distinction, that separates the billionaire from the burnout. Most people spend their days in a state of shallow busyness, splashing in the puddles of distraction. They answer emails, they scroll, they shuffle papers, and they wonder why their bank accounts are stagnant. That is not output. That is performance art for a failing audience. To work like hell is to bring a laser-focused intensity to the few things that actually move the needle of your destiny. It is not about the hours you put in. It is about the soul you put into the hours. To understand the altar of output, you must understand a neurological phenomenon known as the flow state. This is not some mystical woo-woo concept. It is a measurable state of high-performance neurobiology. When you enter flow, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that houses your inner critic, your doubt, and your sense of time, temporarily shuts down. This is a transient hypofrontality that elite athletes and master creators live for. In this state, your brain releases a potent cocktail of dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins. You become a conduit. The work doesn't just happen through you, it becomes you. But here's the catch. You cannot wish your way into flow. You must earn it through total immersion. You must be willing to shut out the world, to silence the notifications, to ignore the trivial, and to plunge into the deep water of your primary task. The altar of output demands your total presence. It is a jealous God. It will not grant you its gifts if you are checking your phone every 6 minutes. You must be willing to be gone from the world so that you can create something the world cannot ignore. Think of a sculptor. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah doesn't just touch the clay when she steps into her studio. She leaves a person named Sarah behind. She becomes the motion of the chisel. She doesn't notice the cold in the room or the hunger in her stomach. She is in a state of high-leverage intensity. She knows that 1 hour of this focused fire is worth 20 hours of distracted puttering. This is the difference between a masterpiece and a hobby. Most people operate at a level of lukewarm. They are a little bit focused, a little bit distracted, and a little bit tired. But the universe does not respond to lukewarm. It responds to the boil. To work like hell is to reach that boiling point where the liquid of your effort turns into steam that powers the engine of wealth. You must learn to guard your focus, like a king guards his treasury. If you allow distractions to steal your attention, you are allowing them to steal your future. Let's look at the 1% rule of exponential output. Most people think they need to make a 100% leap overnight. They think they need a radical tectonic shift to see a change in their luck. But wealth is built on the compound interest of tiny daily victories. If you improve your output by just 1% every single day, you're not just 365% better at the end of the year. You're 37 times more powerful because of the way progress stacks. This is the precision of a mindset coach meeting the wisdom of a sage. You don't need to be a titan today. You just need to be 1% more intense than you were yesterday. You need to make one more call, write one more page, or sharpen one more skill. This 1% is the seed. It looks small, but inside it is the blueprint for a forest. When you commit to this rule, you stop looking for the giant leap, and you start mastering the daily strike. You become a relentless machine of incremental progress, and eventually, the momentum becomes so great that your success looks like an overnight miracle to everyone who wasn't watching you at the altar. For Thomas Edison, we celebrate the light bulb, but we often ignore the 10,000 failures that preceded it. Was he unlucky for those 10,000 attempts? No, he was at the altar. Each attempt was a 1% refinement of his understanding. He wasn't just working. He was conducting a symphony of high-leverage intensity. He wasn't guessing. He was iterating. Every time he failed, he didn't retreat into the unlucky narrative. He simply adjusted the dial. He understood that the altar of output requires a sacrifice of ego. You must be willing to produce bad work to get to the great work. The unlucky person stops at the first sign of flaw. The master knows that the flaw is just the rough edge of the diamond waiting to be polished. You must fall in love with the process of refining your output until it becomes undeniable. This is where passion meets precision. Passion is a fuel, the fire in your belly that gets you out of bed when a room is cold, but precision is the engine. Without precision, passion is just a wildfire that burns itself out and leaves nothing but ash. You need both. You need the hell work, energy to push through the resistance, but you need the psychological precision to know where to push. This means auditing your life. Where are you spending low-value energy? Are you spending 3 hours a day arguing on the internet or watching the news? That is energy that should be burned at your altar. Every ounce of your focus is a currency. Stop spending it on things that offer zero return on your investment. Start investing it in the deep, immersive work that actually builds your empire. When you live at the altar of output, something strange happens to your luck. The right people start calling you. Opportunities seem to fall into your lap. The truth is, they aren't falling. You are pulling them in with the gravity of your intensity. A person who is working like hell creates a massive gravitational field. You become a magnet for resources, mentors, and capital because the world recognizes a finisher. The world is tired of starters. It is hungry for those who can execute with precision. When you become a person of high leverage output, you are no longer asking for a seat at the table. You are building your own table, and the world is asking for an invitation to sit with you. You must realize that your mind is either an ally or an enemy in this process. When you sit down to do the great work, your brain will try to bargain with you. It will tell you that you've done enough. It will tell you that you can finish it tomorrow. This is the moment of the second wind. In performance psychology, we know that when you think you are done, you are actually only at 40% of your capacity. There is a massive reservoir of energy and insight waiting just beyond the wall of your initial fatigue. To work like hell is to intentionally push through that 40% mark. It is to find the second wind where the magic lives. That is where the breakthroughs are. That is where the luck is hidden. Look at your hands. Look at your mind. These are the tools of a god in the body of a human. You have the ability to take an idea, a mere thought, and through the altar of output, turn it into a reality that people can touch, buy, and use. Do not disrespect that power by being busy. Be intense. Be precise. Be relentless. The altar is waiting for your sacrifice. It doesn't want your excuses. It wants your focus. It doesn't want your best effort. It wants your results. Do not just move to the next. Pause, take a deep breath, and identify the one task that you've been avoiding because it requires too much heat. That is your altar. Go to it now, not with hesitation, but with the conviction of someone who knows that their destiny is on the other side of that work. Leave the world behind. Enter the flow. Strike the iron while it is hot. And if it is not hot, strike it until it becomes hot. Go to the altar. The fire is yours to claim. Chapter 3. Rewiring the Wealth Frequency. Whatever we plan in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. Earl Nightingale. Close your eyes for a second, not to sleep, but to wake up deep within the folds of your brain. There is a hidden thermostat. It was set long before you earned your first dollar. It was programmed by the whispers of your parents, the limitations of your neighborhood, and the scars of every no you ever heard. This thermostat doesn't measure temperature. It measures your wealth frequency. If your internal setting is set to survival, no amount of working like hell will keep you rich. You can stack a mountain of gold, but if your mind believes you belong in the valley, you will find a way to burn that mountain to the ground. You will call it an accident. You will call it a bad investment. You will call it unlucky. But it is actually your subconscious mind performing a surgical strike of self-sabotage to return you to the level of discomfort you find familiar. To create lasting wealth, we must do more than just work. We must rewire the very biology of your belief. We must address the poverty ego. This is the part of your identity that finds pride in the struggle. It is a voice that says, I may be broke, but at least I am a good person, as if poverty and virtue were twins. They are not. Poverty is a restriction of your ability to serve, to grow, and to give. The poverty ego views money as a scarce resource, a limited pie where your slice takes away from someone else. This is a neurological lie. In the real world of high-level creation, wealth is an infinite energy that is generated by solving problems. When you view money through the lens of scarcity, your brain operates in threat mode. Your amygdala stays active, your creative center is shut down, and you become blind to the high-ticket opportunities standing right in front of you. You cannot catch a radio station playing at 100.1 if your dial is stuck at 88.5. You aren't missing the music. You are simply on the wrong frequency. Maria works harder than anyone you know. She stays late. She studies, she executes. But whenever she gets close to a life-changing contract, she freezes. She forgets to follow up. She second-guesses her pricing. She tells herself she is being humble, but she is actually being haunted. She is haunted by the neurological loops of her childhood, where money was always the cause of arguments and rich people We're the villains of the story. Her brain has categorized wealth as danger. Every time she moves toward success, her nervous system triggers a fight or flight response. To her, success feels like a threat to her identity. She is trying to drive a Ferrari with the emergency brake pulled all the way up. She doesn't need more hustle. She needs to cut the cable of that brake. She needs to normalize the feeling of abundance until it feels as natural as the air she breathes. This is where the science of neuro-plasticity becomes your greatest spiritual ally. Your brain is not a static stone. It is soft clay. Every thought you repeat with emotion is a finger pressing into that clay, leaving a permanent mark. If you want to dissolve the poverty ego, you must stop feeding the language of lack. Stop saying, I can't afford it. Stop saying, that's not for people like me. When you say those words, you are literally carving unlucky pathways into your cortex. Instead, you must begin the process of high-ticket normalization. You must put yourself in environments where wealth is the standard, not the exception. Walk through the lobbies of the finest hotels. Sit in the seats of the cars you wish to drive. Not to window shop with envy, but to tell your nervous system, this is home. This is safe. This is me. You are training your brain to stop reacting to wealth with a spike of adrenaline and to start reacting with the calm of a king. Long before the world knew Jim Carrey, he was broke, living in a van, but he wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered. He carried that check in his wallet until it was tattered and torn. He wasn't just wishing. He was performing a daily neurosensory hack. Every time he looked at that check, he was firing the neurons associated with that level of wealth. He was forcing his brain to accept a new frequency as a reality. By the time the actual money arrived, his mind had already spent years living in that frequency. It wasn't a shock. It was an inevitability. He had rewired his internal thermostat so that $10 million felt like room temperature. This is the wealth frequency, a state of being where you're no longer chasing the money, but rather you have become a person that money is naturally attracted to. You must realize that wealth is a form of light. If your internal windows are covered in the soot of guilt and shame, no matter how bright the sun shines, you will live in the dark. You must scrub the soot. You must forgive yourself for your past financial mistakes. You must release the idea that having more means others have less. In fact, the more wealth you command, the more you can pour into the roots of your community, your family, and your vision. Think of wealth like water in a garden. When the tank is full, the flowers can bloom. When the tank is empty, the garden dies. Your work is to become the largest tank possible. This requires a rebirth of identity. You are no longer the person who struggles to get by. You are the person for whom abundance is a default. The transition from the poverty ego to the wealth ego involves a period of intense internal friction. As you begin to think bigger, as you begin to charge what you are actually worth, the old version of you will scream. It will call you a fraud. It will tell you that you are getting ahead of yourself. This is an extinction burst of your old neural pathways. Do not listen. This is the storm before the light. This is the moment the seed cracks open. It feels like destruction, but it is actually the birth of the tree. Stay the course. Maintain the frequency. Speak the language of your future self until your present reality has no choice but to catch up. To master your wealth frequency, you must also master your emotional intelligence around the loss. Most people are so afraid of losing money that they never play the game hard enough to win it. They have an avoidance frequency. But a world-class mentor knows that money is like the tide. It goes out and it comes in. If you panic when it goes out, you freeze your ability to bring it back in. You must develop a rhythmic faith. You must work like hell with the conviction that every seed you plant in the altar of output is being fed by the wealth frequency of your mind. You are not just earning dollars. You are commanding energy. When you stop fearing the ebb, you become the master of the flow. Look at the world around you. Everything you see, the buildings, the technology, the clothes on your back, started as a thought in someone's mind. Someone decided that it could be. They didn't wait for a sign. They became the sign. They tuned their internal frequency to the level of the solution, and the wealth followed. You have that same equipment. Your brain is the most sophisticated wealth creation machine in the known universe. But it only works for the version of you that you believe in. If you believe you are a struggler, it will give you things to struggle with. If you believe you are a wealth builder, it will give you the insights to build empires. I want you to perform a mental audit. What is your internal price tag? If someone offered you $1 million today, would you feel like a thief, or would you feel like you finally got paid what you are worth? If there's any hesitation, if there's any shiver in your soul, that is your work. That is the frequency you must fix. Do not go back to work until you have sat in the silence and convinced your own heart that you are worthy of every cent you desire. You are not a beggar in the kingdom of life. You are the royalty that has forgotten its crown. Pick up the crown. Polish it with your thoughts. Wear it with your actions. The universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. Tune your mind to the gold, and the gold will find its way home. Chapter 4. The Friction Factor. The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor man perfected without trials. Seneca, listen to the world around you. Everything that has ever moved, everything that has ever soared, and everything that has ever stood the test of time had to overcome the force of resistance. In the world of physics, we call it friction. In the world of the unlucky, they call it a reason to quit. But in the world of the elite, the realm where you and I are now traveling, we call it the signal. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid tension. They want the smooth path, the easy win, and the comfortable climb. But comfort is a graveyard for potential. If you are not feeling the burn of resistance, you are not moving fast enough to change your life. Friction is the heat that turns raw coal into a diamond. It is the weight that tears the muscle so it can grow back stronger. To work like hell is to embrace the friction factor as the ultimate proof that you are finally, truly alive. Most people fail because they have an allergic reaction to difficulty. When the market dips, when a client leaves, or when a project fails, they feel a surge of emotional pain. Because they haven't trained their minds, they interpret this pain as a stop sign. They think the universe is telling them to turn back. But your brain is a survival machine, and its first instinct is to keep you in the safe zone of the familiar. When you push against the boundaries of your current life, your biology will scream. This is a friction factor in action. A world-class performer understands that this emotional sting is not a signal of defeat. It is intellectual data. It is the feedback from the system telling you exactly where your weaknesses are and where your next level of power is hidden. If it doesn't hurt, it isn't changing you. David starts a new venture with high hopes. The first month is great, but in the second month, the friction arrives. The technology breaks. A partner backs out. The revenue stalls. David feels a heavy pressure in his chest. He interprets this as bad luck or a sign that he's on the wrong path. He retreats. He slows down. He waits for things to smooth over. But things don't smooth over for those who wait. They only smooth over for those who sharpen their edge and cut through. David's mistake wasn't a failure. It was his emotional interpretation of the friction. He let the heat melt his resolve, instead of using the heat to forge his character. To stay lucky, you must learn to look at a storm and see it as a flight simulator, a place to practice the emotional intelligence that will eventually govern an empire. Building an ironclad emotional intelligence means developing the ability to sit in the fire without being consumed by it. In the world of wealth, market volatility is a guarantee. There will be seasons of winter where nothing seems to grow. If your mood is tied to your daily results, you will be a slave to the wind. You must learn to decouple your inner peace from your outer progress. This is the calm wisdom of the sage. When the friction is at its highest, when the noise is the loudest, that is, when you must be the most still, you are the eye of the hurricane. The chaos is spinning around you, but it is not in you. When you master this, you become dangerous to your competitors because you cannot be intimidated. You cannot be rattled. You have turned pain into fuel and resistance into a roadmap. Nelson Mandela didn't just endure 27 years of prison. He used the friction of that confinement to refine his soul. He didn't see the walls as a reason to wither. He saw them as a furnace. He emerged not with bitterness, but with a clarity of purpose that changed a nation. He understood that the greatest friction leads to the greatest liberation. Now, your prison may not be a stone cell. It might be a debt, a failing relationship, or a stagnant career, but the principle remains. The walls are not there to keep you in. They are there to give you something to push against. The resistance is your trainer. Every no you receive is a repetition that builds the muscle of your conviction. Neurologically, when you lean into friction instead of running from it, you trigger a process of stress-induced growth. You are telling your nervous system that you are the predator, not the prey. This shifts your brain from the limbic fear response into the executive functioning of the prefrontal cortex. You begin to see patterns where others see chaos. You find the solution in the center of the problem. This is how you stay lucky while others are drowning. You have trained yourself to see friction as the very thing that validates your progress. If the road is easy, you're probably going the wrong way. The path to the summit is always steeper than the path to the basement. We must use the metaphor of the seed once more. A seed is buried in the dark, under the crushing weight of the earth. It is surrounded by the friction of the soil. To grow, it must literally fight the gravity of the world. It must push through the resistance to find the light. If the seed complained about the unfairness of the dirt, it would rot. Instead, it uses the pressure of the earth to stabilize its roots as it climbs. You are in your dirt phase right now. The pressure you feel, the bills, the long hours, the doubt of others, that is the soil. It is pressing against you so that when you finally break the surface, you will have the root system necessary to stand tall in the wind. Do not curse the dirt. Use it to anchor your soul. To work like hell means to be the most active when the friction is the highest. Most people work hard when they are motivated. Motivation is a fair weather friend. It's easy to work when the sun is out and the path is clear, but wealth is made in the rain. Wealth is made when you are tired, when you are bored, and when you are frustrated. That is when the hell work counts the most. Every hour you spend working through friction is worth 10 hours of working in the easy times. This is an intensity gap. While your competition is waiting for the friction to subside, you are using the friction to gain ground. You are outpacing them because you have stopped fearing the heat. Emotional intelligence is your shield against market volatility. The world will try to shake you. It will try to convince you that you are losing. But a master knows that losing is just a word the unlucky use for an incomplete lesson. There is no losing. There is only winning or learning. When you adopt this mindset, you become invincible. You are no longer gambling on luck. You are investing in your own resilience. You begin to welcome the storms because you know that after every storm, the air is clearer and the ground is more fertile. You are being reborn in every moment of struggle. Look at your challenges today. Stop seeing them as obstacles. Start seeing them as your equipment. That difficult conversation you need to have, that is your weights. That complex problem you need to solve, that is your treadmill. That fear you need to overcome, that is your mountain. Every bit of friction is an invitation to rise. If you want a life that others don't have, you must be willing to endure the friction that others won't touch. You are forging a spirit that can withstand any environment. You are becoming a force of nature. I want you to find the hardest thing on your to-do list. The thing that makes your stomach turn. The thing you've been avoiding because it feels too heavy. That is your friction point. That is where your growth is waiting. Do not walk toward it. Run toward it. Embrace the heat. Feel the resistance and smile, because you know that on the other side of that friction is a version of you that is untouchable. The world doesn't belong to the comfortable. It belongs to the ones who are willing to be forged in the fire. The heat is on. Stand tall and let it burn away everything that isn't you. Chapter 5. Strategic obsession versus blind hustle. Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. Peter Drucker. Stop for a moment and look at your hands. Now look at your calendar. If you are exhausted but your bank account is silent, if you are sweating but your dream is still a ghost, you are likely a victim of the world's most deceptive trap, blind hustle. There is a toxic lie circulating in the halls of mediocrity that says sheer volume of work is the price of admission to the elite. They tell you to grind until you break. They tell you to stay awake until your eyes bleed. But I am here to tell you that the universe does not reward sweat alone. It rewards the direction of that sweat. Working like hell without a strategy is like rowing a boat with one or in a circle. You are burning calories, but you are staying exactly where you started. To become truly lucky, you must put down the blunt axe of the grind and pick up the scalpel of strategic obsession. We are not here to kill ourselves for a paycheck. We are here to build a monument that stands long after we are gone. Blind hustle is a neurological glitch. It happens when your brain mistakes activity for achievement. When you spend your day answering trivial messages, attending pointless meetings, and organizing your desk, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine. It tricks you into feeling productive. But this is hollow work. It is a fast food of productivity. It fills your time but stars your future. The unlucky person loves blind hustle because it feels safe. As long as they are busy, they have an excuse for why they haven't succeeded. They can point to their fatigue as a badge of honor. But fatigue is not a result. Exhaustion is not an asset. If you are running 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, you are actually worse off than the person standing still. You must stop being a busy person and start being a significant person. Strategic obsession is a different animal entirely. It is the marriage of fierce heart and a cold, calculating mind. It is the ability to look at 1,000 opportunities and say no to 999 of them, so that you can say a thunderous yes to the one that actually matters. This is the great work. While the grinder is try to boil the entire ocean, the strategic obsessed is using a magnifying glass to focus the sun's rays onto a single point until it bursts into flame. They don't want to do everything. They want to do the only thing. They understand that wealth is not created by 1,000 small movements, but by 3 or 4 massive, well-timed strikes. Marcus owns a small marketing firm. He works 15 hours a day. He handles the accounting. He fixes the website. He orders the office supplies, and he tries to manage every client himself. He is working like hell by the world's definition, but Marcus is stuck. He is stuck because he is leaking energy like a bucket with 20 holes. He is spending CO energy on assistant tasks. He is a world-class engine being used to power a lawnmower. Strategic obsession would demand that Marcus audit his energy leaks. It would force him to outsource the trivial and obsess over the one thing that grows the business: high-level strategy and relationship building. The moment Marcus stops grinding and starts architecting, his luck will change. Not because the world became kinder, but because he stopped wasting his fire on wet wood. Steve Jobs, when he returned to Apple in the late 90s, the company was making dozens of different products. They were busy, they were hustling, and they were dying. Jobs didn't tell them to work harder. He told them to stop. He drew a simple grid with 4 squares and said, "We are going to make 4 great products." That's it. He cut the blind hustle and replaced it with a strategic obsession. He understood that precision is the scalpel of the soul. By focusing all the company's energy into a few pillars, they didn't just survive, they redefined the world. They stopped trying to win every battle and decided to win the war. You must do the same with your life. You must find your 4 squares and burn everything else to the ground. To do this, you must perform a ruthless energy audit. Look at where your time goes. Every hour is a seed. Are you planting it in a pot that can grow into a tree? Or are you throwing it onto concrete? Most people spend 80% of their energy on tasks that provide 20% of their results. This is a Pareto principle in reverse, and it is a blueprint for a life of quiet desperation. You must flip the script. You must identify the pillars of destiny, the 2 or 3 activities that, if done with world-class intensity, would make everything else irrelevant. Maybe it's sales. Maybe it's product development. Maybe it's deep-level networking. Whatever it is, that is where your hell work belongs. Everything else is just noise. Neurologically, this focus creates a state of hyperlucidity. When you stop scattering your attention, your brain's neural networks begin to align. You start seeing the matrix of your industry. You notice patterns, shortcuts, and leverage points that the blind hustlers miss because they are too tired to look up. This is where the luck happens. To the outside observer, it looks like you made a brilliant move out of nowhere, but wasn't nowhere. It was a result of observing the board with a rested, focused, and obsessed mind. You didn't work more than them. You worked deeper than them. You didn't move more. You moved better. This requires a massive amount of faith and a total lack of people-pleasing. When you choose strategic obsession, people will call you unavailable. They will say you are neglecting things. They will want you to join their busyness, so they feel better about their own lack of direction. You must have the calm wisdom to let them talk. You are not a social coordinator. You are a destiny builder. You are forging a life of light, and that requires you to stay in the furnace until the work is done. Rebirth is a lonely process. The caterpillar doesn't invite his friends into the cocoon. He goes in alone so he can come out transformed. Metaphorically, your energy is like a river. If the river is spread across a wide, flat plain, it becomes a shallow marsh, stagnant, slow, and weak. But if you bank that river, if you narrow its path and force it through a canyon, it becomes a powerful torrent that can carve through solid rock and generate electricity. Blind hustle is the marsh. Strategic obsession is the canyon. You must narrow your focus to increase your power. You must stop trying to be everything to everyone and start being everything to your goal. This is the precision of the scalpel. A surgeon doesn't hack at a body with a meat cleaver. They make a small, precise incision in exactly the right place. That is how you should approach your wealth building. What is the one move, the one incision, that would change your entire financial anatomy? Is it a specific partnership? Is it a new skill? Is it a radical change in your business model? Find it. Obsess over it. Pour your work-like-hell energy into that single point. When you do, you will find that the luck you've been chasing has been waiting for you to get serious about your targets. I want you to take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, list everything you did yesterday. On the other side, circle the one thing that actually moved you closer to your ultimate vision. If the list of things you did is long and the list of things that mattered is short, you are in the grind. It is time to stop. It is time to withdraw. It is time to recalibrate. Do not be afraid to be unproductive in the eyes of the world, so that you can be legendary in the eyes of history. Put down the cleaver. Pick up the scalpel. Your great work is calling. Chapter 6. The magnetism of momentum. Success requires first expended effort, then maintain momentum. Once the wheel is turning, it is the momentum that does the work. Darren Hardy. Listen to the stillness of the air before a storm. In that silence, there's a gathering of forces, a hidden buildup of energy waiting for the first crack of lightning. This is where you are right now. You have analyzed the unlucky, you have built your altar, and you have tuned your frequency. But now, we must address the law that governs the stars and the markets alike. The law of momentum. Most people treat their dreams like a car with a dead battery. They push for a few feet, get tired, and let the car roll backward to the starting line. They spend their lives in a cycle of starting over, never realizing that the hardest part of the journey is the first inch of movement. I am here to tell you that luck is nothing more than the moment your momentum becomes so heavy that the world can no longer stand in your way. Once you move fast enough, you stop being a seeker of opportunities, and you become a magnet for them. Momentum is a biological and spiritual cheat code. When you string together a series of victories, no matter how small, your brain undergoes a chemical shift. It begins to expect success. This is the winner effect in neurobiology. Each win increases the androgen receptors in your brain, making you more resilient to stress and more sharp in your execution. This is the magnetism. When you are in motion, you project a different energy. People can sense it. Investors can smell it. The market feels the vibration of your speed. While the unlucky are standing still, debating their next move, you are a blur of motion. You are moving so fast that doubt cannot latch onto your skin. Friction, which we discussed before, is still there, but now, instead of stopping you, it is being converted into the heat that fuels your engine. Julian spent years planning a creative agency. He had the logos, the business cards, and the perfect office chairs, but he had zero momentum. He was static. One day, Julian decided to stop planning and start moving. He made 10 calls before breakfast. He sent 20 emails before lunch. He recorded 5 videos before dinner. The first day, nothing happened. The second day, silence. But by the 10th day, the wheel began to turn. A former colleague called him out of the blue. A stranger saw a video and asked for a quote. By the 30th day, Julian was no longer chasing clients. His inbox was a storm of inquiries. Was Julian suddenly lucky? No. Julian had achieved escape velocity. He had moved so much mass in a single direction that he created his own gravitational pull. The world didn't change for Julian. Julian's speed changed the way the world responded to him. This brings us to the core philosophy of the elite: aggressive patience. This is the rarest of all mental states. It is the ability to work with terrifying, relentless speed in the short term, treating every hour like a life or death battle, while remaining completely calm, peaceful, and patient for the long-term harvest. Most people get this backward. They are patient in the short term, taking long breaks and moving slowly, and then they become aggressive and anxious when they don't see results in the long term. This is why they stay unlucky. They are trying to harvest a crop they haven't finished planting. To work like hell is to be aggressive with your daily output, to move with a speed that scares your old self, but to have the patience of a mountain regarding when the wealth arrives. You must trust the math of your motion. If the wheel is turning fast enough, the sparks will fly. It is a physical certainty. Think of a figure like Serena Williams on the court. Her speed is not just physical, it is mental. She is moving with an aggressive intensity in every single point, every single serve, every single breath. But beneath that intensity is a patience that knows a match is won over hours, not minutes. She doesn't panic if she loses a point, because her momentum is a crushing weight that will eventually break her opponent. She has built a career out of being a momentum machine. When you see a champion, you aren't seeing a lucky break. You are seeing the result of someone who refused to let their will stop turning, even when the stadium was empty and the lights were low. You must understand that momentum is the only thing that can kill the ghosts of your past. Your old failures, your insecurities, and your unlucky memories are like ghosts that haunt a stationary house. But you are no longer a house. You are a high-speed train. A ghost cannot haunt a train moving at 200 miles an hour. It simply cannot keep up. When you are in a state of high-leverage output, your mind doesn't have the luxury of rumination. It doesn't have the time to ask, what if I fail? Because it is too busy asking, what is the next strike? This is the rebirth of the self through motion. You are literally running away from your old identity and into the arms of your destiny. Metaphorically, your life is like a massive stone wheel. To get it to turn even 1 inch requires an agonizing amount of effort. You push and you sweat, and it feels like nothing is happening. This is a dead zone where 90% of people quit. They think, this is too much work for no reward. But they don't see that beneath the surface, the friction of rest is being overcome. Once that wheel starts to roll, it gains its own weight. It gains its own power. Soon, you don't have to push as hard. You just have to keep it guided. Eventually, the wheel is moving so fast that it becomes a force of nature, crushing any obstacle in its path. That is the magnetism of momentum. The wealth you seek is not in the pushing, it is in the rolling. To build this momentum, you must eliminate the gap of hesitation. This is the space between the thought and the action. The unlucky person thinks of a call they should make, and then they wait. They think. They drink coffee. They prepare. In that gap, the momentum dies. The world-class performer thinks of a call, and their hand is already on the phone before the thought is even finished. They have trained their nervous system to have a zero-latency response. By closing the gap, you keep the fire hot. You don't give the unlucky narrative a chance to breathe. You must become a person of immediate execution. When you move this fast, you create a vacuum behind you, and the universe rushes in to fill that vacuum with resources. But remember the patient side of the equation. You are a gardener planting seeds in a digital and financial field. You can scream at the dirt all you want, but the tree will only grow at its own pace. Your job is to water it with aggressive daily work, and then sit back in calm faith. If you dig up the seed every day to see if it's growing, you kill the plant. This is what most people do when they check their bank accounts every 5 minutes or obsess over a single no. They are interrupting their own momentum with anxiety. Stop looking at the scoreboard and start looking at the ball. The score is a byproduct of play. If you play with enough speed and precision, the score will eventually take care of itself. This magnetism extends to your environment. When you are in momentum, you attract momentum people. High performers don't want to hang out with people who are planning to do something. They want to hang out with people who are already doing it. Your speed will become your social filter. It will push away the energy vampires who want to sit and complain, and it will pull in the titans who can help you scale your empire. You will find that luck is often just a conversation with another person who is moving as fast as you are. Two momentum machines coming together create a nuclear reaction of wealth. I want you to look for the stall in your life. Where have you stopped moving? Where are you waiting for perfect before you start? Your assignment is to break the seal. Do something, anything, right now that moves you forward. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be fast. Make the call. Send the text. Write the first paragraph. Kick the wheel. Once it moves, don't you dare let it stop. The first few inches are the hardest, but the miles that follow are where the magic lives. Break the stillness. Become the storm. The magnetism is yours to command. Chapter 7. Killing the Ghost of Good Enough. Good is the enemy of great, and that is one of the key reasons why we have so little that becomes great. Jim Collins. Take a long, hard look at the room you are standing in. Look at the device in your hand. Now, look into the mirror of your own soul. Most people are not failing because they are bad at what they do. They are failing because they are good enough. They have reached a plateau where the air is comfortable, the view is decent, and the struggle is lessened. They have settled into a dangerous trance of adequacy. But good enough is a ghost that haunts the halls of the middle class, a silent thief that steals the life you were meant to live while whispering that you should be grateful for what you have. I am here to tell you that gratitude and ambition are not enemies. You can be grateful for the ground beneath your feet while being obsessed with reaching the stars. To work like hell is to realize that average is a slow death. Excellence is not a luxury. It is a moral obligation to your own potential. If you want to be lucky, you must kill the ghost of good enough before it buries you in a grave of almost. This ghost lives in the smallest cracks of your day. It is the extra 5 minutes you spend in bed after the alarm goes off. It is the mostly finished report you sent yesterday. It is the workout where you didn't quite hit your limit. Neurologically, your brain loves good enough because it requires the least amount of metabolic energy. To your biology, greatness is expensive. It requires more focus, more oxygen, and more glucose. Your brain will literally try to talk you out of excellence to save calories. It wants you to stay in the safe zone of the mediocre. But when you settle for good, you are training your neural pathways to accept defeat as a standard. You are building a tolerance for the ordinary. To break this, you must adopt a world-class standard, a code of conduct that applies when no one is watching and when there is no immediate reward. Excellence is a lonely path, but it is the only one that leads to the summit. Sam is a freelance designer. He is talented. He meets his deadlines. His clients are satisfied. He makes a good living. But Sam is invisible. He is just one of 10,000 people doing good work. He wonders why he isn't getting the lucky breaks, the massive contracts, or the global recognition. The reason is simple. Sam has a good enough morning. He starts his day reacting to emails instead of creating. He has good enough meetings where he says the right things but never challenges the status quo. He has a good enough mind that consumes entertainment instead of education. Sam isn't being punished. He is simply being ignored by a universe that only rewards the extraordinary. To change his life, Sam doesn't need a new degree. He needs to kill the ghost. He needs to decide that every pixel he moves and every word he speaks will be of a world-class standard. A world-class standard begins with your morning. Your first hour is the rudder that steers the ship of your day. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their sovereignty to the digital world. They check the news, the social feeds, and the demands of others. They're reacting before they have even stood up. A world-class performer treats the morning like a sacred ritual of forging. This is a time to prime your brain, to hydrate, to move, to meditate, and to visualize the hell work you will execute. You are setting the frequency for the next 16 hours. If you in the morning, you have already won the day. If you stumble through your first hour with a good enough attitude, you are essentially inviting the ghost to lead the way. You must be ruthless with your dawn. It is the seed of your light. This standard must extend to your meetings and your interactions. Whether you're talking to a CEO or a delivery person, your energy should be a signature of excellence. Most people half listen. They wait for their turn to speak. They are good enough communicators. But a person of high-level wealth understands that every interaction is an opportunity to move the world. When you show up with total presence, with a mind that is sharp and a heart that is engaged, you become magnetic. You are no longer just doing business. You are leaving a mark. People remember the way you made them feel and the precision with which you handle the details. This is how you build a reputation that precedes you. This is how luck finds your phone number. You are creating a world-class brand out of the raw material of your personality. Think of a figure like Michelangelo. When he was painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he spent years on his back in pain, painting figures in corners that no one would ever see clearly from a floor. Someone asked him why he labored so much over details that were invisible. His answer was simple: God will see them. This is the essence of killing the ghost. It is the internal drive to do things right, because you see them. Your self-esteem is directly tied to the standard of your work. Every time you cut a corner, you are telling your subconscious that you aren't worth the best. Every time you push for perfection, you are telling your soul that you are a giant. You cannot feel like a king if you are doing the work of a peasant. You must match your output to the height of your ambition. Metaphorically, your life is like a garden. Good enough is the weeds. They don't look dangerous at first. They are just small, green shoots. But if you don't pull them out daily, they will choke the roots of your roses. They will steal the nutrients from your dreams. You must be a relentless gardener of your own standards. You must prune the good to make room for the great. This means saying no to good opportunities that are not aligned with your ultimate vision. It means leaving good relationships that keep you playing small. It means refusing to accept good results from yourself or your team. The fire of excellence requires a lot of wood. You must be willing to burn your comforts to keep the flame alive. The path of excellence is lonely because most people are unwilling to pay the price of admission. They want the wealth, but they want to keep their good enough habits. They want a rebirth, but they want to keep their old skin. When you decide to live by a world-class standard, you'll find that some people will be uncomfortable around you. They will try to pull you back down to the safe level of the group. They will call you obsessed or too intense. Take it as a compliment. It means you are finally moving at a speed that they can no longer track. You are not being arrogant. You are being congruent. You are finally matching your actions to your potential. Your mind is the ultimate architect of this standard. You must develop a world-class mind that refuses to entertain the language of the unlucky. This mind doesn't ask, will this work? It asks, how can I make this legendary? It doesn't look for excuses. It looks for leverage. You must feed this mind with the highest quality information. Stop consuming the junk food of gossip and sensationalism. Read the books of the masters. Listen to the voices of the giants. Surround yourself with the light of high-level thinking. Your mind is a garden. If you plant good enough seeds, you'll get a good enough life. If you plant world-class seeds, you will harvest a destiny that looks like a miracle to the rest of the world. I want you to identify 3 areas of your life where you've been settling for good enough. Is it your health? Is it your primary work project? Is it the way you speak to your family? Choose one, and right now, raise the floor. Decide that from the second forward, your standard for that area is nothing less than world-class. Do not wait for a better time. Do not wait until you feel like it. Excellence is a decision, not a feeling. Kill the ghost. Sweep the ashes. Stand up and reclaim the territory that you have surrendered to the ordinary. The ordinary is a prison. Excellence is the key. Chapter 8. The architecture of the inevitable. Success is not a secret. It is a system. It is a result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. Colin Powell. Stand at the center of your vision and breathe in the electricity of this moment. We have traveled through the anatomy of the unlucky and burned the bridge behind us. We have stood at the altar of output and rewired the very frequency of your soul. You have embraced the friction and killed the ghost of good enough. Now, we arrive at the final transformation. This is where the spiritual meets the structural. This is where we stop talking about trying to succeed and start talking about making success a mathematical certainty. Most people view wealth as a mystery, a ghost that appears and disappears at will. But for you, wealth is about to become an architecture. It is a natural result of a life built on solid ground with a blueprint that cannot fail. When your work ethic is undeniable and your mindset is bulletproof, you are no longer gambling. You are constructing the inevitable. The architecture of the inevitable is based on a simple but profound truth. The universe is governed by laws, not whims. Just as gravity does not forget to work on Tuesdays, the law of cause and effect does not forget to reward high-leverage intensity. If you plant 1,000 seeds in fertile soil and water them with relentless consistency, a harvest is not a hope. It is a mathematical conclusion. Success is not a lightning bolt. It is a rising tide. It is a slow, steady accumulation of pressure until the dam finally breaks. Neurologically, this is the phase where you move from conscious effort to unconscious mastery. You have practiced the habits of the elite so many times that they are now part of your cellular makeup. You are no longer working like hell. You are the fire. To build this architecture, you must create what I call your war map for the next 365 days. A war map is not a list of vague resolutions or nice-to-have goals. It is a strategic document of conquest. It is a day-by-day, hour-by-hour breakdown of how you will deploy your energy. Most people drift through their year like a leaf in a stream, reacting to whatever the current throws at them. The architect of the inevitable builds a canal. They decide exactly where the water will flow. Your war map identifies your primary objective, the one thing that changes everything, and then reverse engineers every single day to serve that objective. If it is on the map, it gets done. If it is not on the map, it does not exist. This is how you reclaim your time from the vultures of distraction and the thieves of later. Leo spent years saying he wanted to be financially free, but his map was a napkin with coffee stains. He worked hard, but he worked randomly. One day, Leo sat down and built his architecture of the inevitable. He mapped out his 365 days. He identified that he needed to master one specific high-income skill and reach 50 specific prospects. He scheduled his hell work blocks for 5 a.m. every single morning, no exceptions. He didn't wait for motivation. He followed the map. 6 months in, Leo felt like he was failing because the money hadn't doubled yet. But because he understood the architecture, he stayed calm. He knew the pressure was building. In month 10, the inevitable happened. 3 major contracts landed at once. To his friends, Leo got lucky. To Leo, he was just finishing the house he had been building since day one. Consider the builders of the great cathedrals of old. Those architects often knew they wouldn't even be alive to see the final stone placed on the spire. Yet, they worked with a precision that lasted for centuries. They didn't hope the walls would stand. They used the laws of geometry and physics to ensure they had to stand. You must treat your wealth with the same reverence. You are not just trying to make money. You are building a cathedral of freedom. Every sales call, every hour of deep study, and every moment of emotional mastery is a stone being laid. When the architecture is correct, the structure can withstand any storm. Market crashes, competitors, and personal setbacks are just wind hitting a stone wall. They may howl, but they cannot move you. This 365-day war map requires you to master the daily strike. The unlucky focus on a mountain, the lucky focus on the next step. You must break your year down into quarterly sprints, monthly targets, and weekly battles. But the most important unit of time is the next 24 hours. Your war map should tell you exactly what your win looks like before you even open your eyes. When you stack 365 wins in a row, the outcome is not in question. You have created a mountain of evidence that you are who you say you are. This builds a level of earned confidence that is unshakable. You don't need to affirm your greatness anymore. You just look at the map and see the territory you've already conquered. Neurologically, this structure reduces decision fatigue. One of the biggest killers of momentum is having to decide what to do every morning. When you have to choose your work, you use up the mental energy you should be using to do the work. The war map removes the choice. It automates your excellence. When the alarm goes off, the map takes over. You don't negotiate with your feelings. You execute the plan. This allows your brain to stay in the flow state we discuss in Chapter 2. You become a high-performance vehicle on a clear highway. There are no stop signs, no detours, and no doubts. There is only the road and the speed. Metaphorically, you are moving from being a candle to being a sun. A candle is easily blown out by a small breeze. It needs constant protection. It is fragile. Most people's dreams are candles. One bad day, one mean comment, or one unlucky break, and the light is gone. But the sun doesn't care about the wind. The sun is a massive, self-sustaining nuclear reaction of such intensity that it creates its own weather. By building the architecture of the inevitable, you are becoming a sun. You are generating so much internal heat and pressure through your work ethic and your map that you become the center of your own universe. Everything else, the wealth, the influence, the luck, begins to orbit around you. This is the rebirth of your reality. You are no longer a passenger in your life. You are the pilot. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. As you follow your war map, you'll feel a sense of inevitable peace. This is a deep, quiet certainty that the results are coming. You stop stressing about the how and the when because you trust the what. You know that if you keep striking the iron with the same rhythm and the same heat, the blade will eventually be finished. This peace is the ultimate wealth. It is the ability to walk through a chaotic world with a smile on your face, knowing that your house is built on a foundation of iron and truth. I want you to look at the blank pages of your next year. Do not see them as a mystery. See them as a construction site. Your war map is the blueprint. Your discipline is the hammer. Your vision is the light. You have everything you need to build a life that is so magnificent it seems impossible to those who still believe in luck. But you know the secret now. You know that luck is just a name people give to the architecture. They are too lazy to build themselves. Take the first step of your 365-day conquest right now. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for the new year. The clock of the inevitable is already ticking. Draw the first line on your map. Lay the first stone of your cathedral. The world is ready to see what a person of undeniable work and bulletproof mind can achieve. The blueprint is in your hands. Now, go build your empire. The conclusion. You stand now at the ultimate threshold, the thin, vibrating line between the person you were when you started this journey and the titan you are becoming. Behind you lies the mist of the unlucky, a gray landscape populated by the ghosts of someday and the hollow echoes of it wasn't my fault. You can walk back into that fog any time you choose. You can return to the comfort of blaming the economy, your upbringing, the timing, or the stars. The world will even sympathize with you if you do. But you and I both know that comfort is a slow-acting poison. You have seen behind the curtain. You have performed the autopsy on a victim mindset, and you felt the heat of the altar of output. You can no longer pretend that you are a leaf in the wind. You are the wind. The fire is before you. Embrace it. You are now equipped with a neurological arsenal that 99% of the world will never understand. You have the tools to rewrite your brain's default settings, the strategic clarity to cut through the noise of blind hustle, and an ancestral fire that has been waiting for generations to finally break through your bloodline. This is not just about a bank account. It is about the reclamation of your soul's authority. You have learned that your doubts are not truths. They are just old software. You have learned that your fear is not a stop sign. It is simply the friction of a new engine turning over. Every time you choose the war map over the lottery mindset, you are performing a miracle of self-creation. Wealth is not a gift dropped into the laps of the chosen. It is not a random stroke of lightning. Wealth is a trophy, a heavy, golden proof of existence awarded to the man or woman who simply refused to stay small. It belongs to the one who stayed at the altar when everyone else went home to sleep. It belongs to the one who saw the storm and didn't look for shelter, but instead looked for a sail. You have earned the right to be lucky. You have paid for your fortune with the currency of your attention, your discipline, and your sweat. Never apologize for the empire you are building, for it is built on the ruins of the excuses you had the courage to kill. Go out now and make your own luck. The world is not a static place. It is a canvas of raw energy waiting for a master's touch. Do not wait for a sign, for a permission slip, or for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is a fiction created by the fearful. The only moment that exists is the one where your hand meets the work. You are the architect of the inevitable. You are the magnet for momentum. You are the death of the good enough. Every breath you take is an opportunity to strike the iron and shape your reality. The world is waiting for your work, not your intentions, not your potential, and certainly not your busyness. It is waiting for the undeniable high-leverage output that only you can produce. There are problems only you can solve, wealth only you can distribute, and a light only you can ignite. The clock is not your enemy. It is your scoreboard. Do not keep the universe waiting any longer. The time for reflection has ended. The time for the hell work has arrived. Step through the fire. Claim your crown. The luck of the world is now in your hands.